Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the stream. My name is Christian Clausen, and I'm the author of the book 5 Lines of Code, in which in chapter 7 we're discussing how to utilize the compiler to help us find errors. This is because I believe that one of the tools that we have available to us anyway, without any setup, without doing anything, is the compiler, and we should just utilize it as much as possible. And so in accordance with that, I like just doing stuff by hand, having exercises to go through, having to learn in that way. Also very much in style with what's in the book Coding Dojo. It's about having spaces where you can learn and practice and stuff. In that book where they define kata, at least where I learned it from, they're very much focused on test-driven development, and often refactoring is a part of that because test-driven development and refactoring go sort of hand in hand. But the katas we're going to make tonight are sort of going to break that rule because we're going to instead focus on how to use the compiler, another way to ensure quality. And I feel like it should be okay to call something a kata if the goal is to actually increase the quality of the software that we're building. That seems like it should be the goal anyway of anything. Other than that, I think we should just jump straight in and get started with the coding. So I'm going to jump down here to the right and we can just get started. I'm in my favorite editor, my editor of choice, Visual Studio Code, and we're going to make a repository for exercises for chapter 7. And I'll just make sure I have my notes visible over here. We're going to be doing this, so we're going to be building a repository, and in that vein, we're going to have it accommodate different styles of languages. We're not going to just do TypeScript like we would normally. What we definitely need is a README. It's all uppercase, right? That's what people prefer. Markdown file for a Git repository. Then we're going to have TypeScript. And it's my hope that we'll also at some point have other languages like Java and C# probably, maybe even C++. I just am not expert enough to make them in C++, and I doubt we'll have time tonight to make all of them. So let's initialize a repo. And what else do we need? We need also to initialize, well, inside the TypeScript folder, we need to say TypeScript init, and do we need npm? I don't think we need npm for this project at least. We're going to be going through the different strengths and weaknesses. First, probably the strengths, because they're sort of easiest to make exercises for from the book from chapter 7, as I mentioned. And the first one that we're going to do is reachability. So we're going to make this into some sort of a game, if we can. And I know we're going to have multiple of each one, because that's when you learn something, when you're in a learning environment, it's very nice to have multiple things to sort of test things on and to see what's the similar, what's different, where are the boundaries of this thing. For the reachability analysis in TypeScript, is actually fairly simple. It checks that a method has to have a return value, at least if you specify that it has a return value. So let's just make a function. Also, you get to see the process that goes into making examples and exercises for a book like mine. So if we have something here that doesn't terminate, like true, something like this, console log, it doesn't really matter what it's doing, in loop. And then if we try to do something down here, console.log, it should tell us that this is unreachable. And it does, unreachable code. So that's one variation of reachability testing. I think we can also do another one. If we say we have, we would like a completely opposite example where it thinks we can reach the end, but we can actually not, I guess. So the common way to do this is to use enums, but we can do it with strings as well. Let's just do with an enum first. Color, I guess. I have an example in chapter 7. I don't remember if that's color, if it's something else. Red, green, and blue. Everybody knows those are all the colors that exist. We all know that, right? So red, green, and blue. Then down here we can say switch on, if we take a color as input here, we can say switch on the C, Then we can say case color.red return red. So I guess this is some sort of a toString method. It seems red, green, blue. And now here, will it say that this down here is unreachable? Yes, it will. Good. Cool. Cool. So what's the return type of this now? It's string, so it does figure out that it's unreachable in both cases. What if I actually try to compile it? Does it give me errors? No, it just says okay. Is it in strict? It is in strict. Can we do null check? All of these are strict, right? Yeah, always strict. No fall through cases. Okay. That's all fair. Yeah, okay. Fine. Red, blue, green. No, green. Blue. Over here. Okay, so we would like it to actually error. So to get this to error, in this case, we can use a special function that I also introduce and talk a little bit about in the book. I call it assert exhaustive. Really, it's not super important what it's called. What's important is that it takes a never and it returns a never. Never is a special type in TypeScript that says that is only introduced once you've exhausted an opportunity. So down here, I should be able to say, we can never get here because C is exhaustively checked, which it says, if we were missing a case here, then it would actually error. Yeah, it would say this is not never. There is a value that we have not tested. Does it not say which value? I thought it would. C, no, it just says, it doesn't even say anything. It just says, no, one error. That's a very, very low effort error message of TypeScript to give there. Okay, but it does error, and that's what's important. Color is not assignable to type, never. What if we have this in, I wonder what if we have it in as if statements? Does it then recognize it? Foo bar baz is the next thing, I guess. So if C is equal to, equal, can never have enough equals in JavaScript languages or PHP. Green here, and that one is gone. Does it tell us? Yeah. So it's actually, no. Oh, it does tell us up here that it's blue. In both cases, it tells us this is blue at this point. It's not never. So we are not checking exhaustively in these two cases. Is there something we can do up here where it would be never? What actually could it be? Can we do assert exhaustive on this? No. This is not a good value. What else can we do? Just a string? Just anything? No. String is not assignable. Yeah, I would guess so. So we would need to have something of type whatever. It doesn't matter because it should determine it does not. Interesting. Okay, so we cannot use the assert exhaustive up here. Is there another way we can get an error from this reachability check, I wonder? Well, these two examples are sort of similar also. Is there anything else that would be interesting to test with this? It does tell us that it's unreachable. So how can we make it error? We can make it error if we, I guess this will be our first exercise here. It doesn't error if we do this, but it does give a compiler if we do this. So can I duplicate this? I guess I can. So the first one, let's clean it up. We're just gonna give people that one. We're also gonna say export with an empty, because I think that way we can have multiple files next to each other without them interfering with each other. We're gonna want this function in multiple files. And so this just says, don't go outside, don't share anything in the global scope, just for scoping. Well, yeah. So let's hope that people ignore this line. Then we have an enum with some values, and we have a toString here. And it shouldn't error. That's sort of the whole exercise of this. So, okay, we're starting to form the rules of the game. So we should do that next to this. First, it's going to be called compiler, katas, probably with a lowercase c, I guess. We'll have a how to contribute. This is actually something that I think is important, and a lot of people sort of miss, or a lot of teams in the industry sort of miss doing sort of what we call inner sourcing, where we have in all of our repos, we have a barrier to making a repo, and that is how to install, how to run, usually how to test, and how to contribute, so that all of the rules of the game are sort of described in a similar, consistent fashion across everything. So for this one, it's not going to be, we're not going to run this and we're not going to test it because it's a kata. So it's how to play instead we're going to do. And so in each case, in each file, there is an erroneous, I couldn't spell that, erroneous function. It is your job to make the compiler discover this. See this? So this handles sort of the negative case, right? So in the case over here, we can make the compiler error by, I guess by saying this has to return a string, would be one way. So that way we can trigger the type system to do it. Yeah, interesting. Interesting. Funny. And what else can we can also use the function from up here. So I guess should this be two different methods of fixing it? Because here if I add blue, it's gonna work, right? Yeah, so it's happy with if I add it. Interesting. There are two solutions. I guess either is fine. So we can say that each thing here starts with a small description. All of the files are gonna be have different stages of the compiler that they're going to target. This one is targeting reachability, as can be seen from the name. Let's make it a header of some sort. I don't know. How do we make a header that stands out with sort of ASCII art? I guess we could do full-on ASCII art. Yeah, ignore that line. Reachability. The function toString does not, is it fun to describe sort of the story behind the function, or is it fun to just describe, hey, you have to do this thing? I guess we could do something like, we have just someone, it's never us, right? We don't do imperfect code. Someone has just added a value to our color enum. Let's wrap this to our color enum, but forgotten to fix the toString function. In this case, it's a function because we have the function keyword here. I want to stay, I should mention also, if we're doing Java and C# at some later point, I want the exercises to be as easy to port back and forth as possible. So we have to stay within sort of what Java and C# can do. Can you make such a mistake into teach the compiler? Let's say teach the compiler about the connection between the enum color and, well, I don't know. Can you make it a compiler error to, can you make the compiler see this? Can you make the compiler see this error? Understand this error? So then we could say, we could give a hint. I guess there's no way to really hide a hint, is there? They're gonna see it. So how are we gonna handle hints? We could just do like a lot of extra lines. Can you make the compiler catch this error? Can you make the compiler catch this mistake? I would love to do this, but I'm pretty sure my formatter is gonna pop it right up. Use return type. That's one way to do it in TypeScript. So in that case, we don't need this one. And I mean, here we've fixed it, so that's not correct. Here we have, we can't really name it something without giving away all of the secret. Hint use assert exhausted. I guess that should be, yeah, I guess here it should be using only what is in the file. It does make sense for the first example to be the one, this is a hint already, right? There is no need for a hint if we're using the assert exhausted. But there is a need for the thing here, using only what is in the file here. And then we'll remove it from here, and then we'll give the hint, use the return type. So, someone has just added. I feel like to accentuate this, we'll put it at the next line. Maybe we should, I think this is accentuated enough. We'll have to go back and forth and format these as we learn how the best way to do this is. Can you make the compiler catch this mistake using only what is in the file? So here, yeah, there's a hint at the bottom. So I guess we can do like this to sort of make people not see it immediately. If I scroll down and see, oh, there's a hint, I'll scroll up. But I guess if the file isn't long enough, that might be an issue. We should run this one and see what it says at all times. So right now it's finding 2 errors. It's saying assert exhaust. So they're both from this one, right? Yeah, these are the 2 errors. This is the solution. I don't think there was a way to fix this one, was there? It's clear from the game instructions what you're allowed to do. Like, is it clear that you can only play with the things like typing to make it fail? You can do whatever to make it fail. Is there another way, though, to make it fail that isn't the intended 2 ways? I don't think so. Hint below. Now you don't see it immediately. You have to really choose to scroll down to get it. I think that's a good way of doing it. We can change the game instructions if it's not clear, but I think make the compiler catch this mistake, that someone adds a value to our enum. Someone have just added the blue value to the file, to the enum, color enum. If they're called 1 and 2, even, we could go and say, that they build on top of each other, sort of, right? Yet again, in another instance, or should we make a whole nother enum? What do you guys think? I mean, it's fairly much the same. What else has about 3 values and is enum of field type? Apart from colors? We'll keep it to the blue for now, unless I get a better idea. Left, up, down, right. Yeah, directions. That's good. That's good. Directions. That's good. Up, right, down. We'll choose the counterclockwise things from HTML and CSS. Tuning in and out. That is fine. Okay, so direction. Oh, but this should also look as different as possible, shouldn't it? So here we should actually use if statements instead to make it as different as possible, while still having the same sort of solution. Up, right, down. Well, D equals. Here, up. Like, if I'm a beginner, do I just go to toString and add, oh, color red, not color green. Throw exception. If you throw exception, I mean, okay, yeah. But that doesn't make the compiler error. That's sort of the point, right? That wouldn't make the compiler error. That would make the runtime error. And that's why I think there are no wrong ways to make it fail. What you could do in the first one is use types, right? Return type. Then you've solved the first one without solving it in the intended way. I assume the solution is to give toString a return type. Yeah, it is in this one. It is in the first one. It is to use. This is sort of the hint. I mean, you have this function here. You have to make use of it. But yeah, in the second one, it's the return type. Science has just discovered a new direction, which we have added to our code. Let's say it's left, right? That's the one I omitted, yeah. A new direction, left, which we have added to our code. However, it's always good to have some howevers in there. However, in our excitement, we forgot to add it to the toString function. Can you make the compiler catch this mistake using only what's in the file? Try to put a little bit of humor in there. If people don't like it, they'll read it once and then they just will skip the first one. So I don't think that's intrusive. Let's call this one 2 and this one 1, so that you can see in the file what you're doing. We forgot to handle it in the 2, yeah, that's better. However, we forgot to handle it in the, our, what do you suggest? The, okay.